Mathing gang, it's finals time, and no matter what math class you're in, you're probably having to factor quadratics. So here are two quick ways to get that done. Let's go. Okay, let's start off with a simpler one. Simpler because there's no coefficient to our x term. So for this, I'm going to choose to go ahead and grab the x method, and that looks like this. I make a big X on the page, and up top here, I put my a, the coefficient of my x squared term, so 1, times my c, the term that has no x, negative 48. 1 times negative 48 is, and then down here, I put my b, right? Ax squared bxc, and so my b is negative 2. And the question I'm always asking with the x method is, what multiplies to the top and adds to the bottom? So to figure that out, I'm going to make a quick factor list of my top, what multiplies to the top. There's my factor list. Now, I'm not going to worry about the negative yet, but I know that one of these has to be negative. 1 and 48, no way that's making a 2. 2 and 24, not making a 2. 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8 are 2 apart. I want, when I sum them, for it to be negative. That means I want the larger of those two to be negative, which makes the other one positive. So now I just check. Negative 8 times 6, negative 48. Negative 8 plus 6, negative 2. I'm good to go. And now my final step is I check back in and see if this has a coefficient. If it does, I would write out my 4 terms. X squared, negative 8x, plus 6x, minus 48. And then I would group and solve. However, because this one does not have a coefficient, I don't have to go through that step. Whenever your x squared term is what I call bald, meaning it does not have a coefficient or the coefficient is 1, then the two answers you get in your x method are what go in the factors. And by the way, this is what we would get if we'd gone ahead and factored by grouping with that other one. And so these are my two factors of this quadratic. Okay, now let's look at a harder one. 6x squared minus 5x minus 4. Okay, first I'm going to show you how to do this with the x method. Then I'm going to show you a hack that's even faster than the x method. Here we go. Up top, what do I put? That's right, AC. So 6 times negative 4. Down below, what do I put? That's correct, B. I'm asking what question. That's right, what multiplies to the top, adds to the bottom. So next I'm going to make, that's correct, a factor list. Okay, I'm going through to see what could combine to make a 5. What jumps out at me is 3 and 8. Again, when I sum them, I want it to end up being negative. So the larger factor wants to be negative. Okay, I check. Negative 8 times 3, negative 24, negative 8 plus 3, negative 5. Good. Now, these do not go directly in the factors because my x squared is not bald. There's a 6 there. So here's what I do next. I bring down the first and last terms, and these two that I found with my x method are the coefficient of my middle terms. And now I group. And if this is not familiar to you, go check out this video on grouping. But I'm asking myself, what is the greatest common factor of these two terms? And I see that that is a 2x. And what is the greatest common factor of these two terms? 1. And now here's the gold. What's inside the parentheses should be the same. If it's not, either you didn't do it right or this isn't factorable into rational numbers. Jump straight to your quadratic formula. But because these are the same, our final step is we factor that out of both terms, which leaves me with a 2x plus 1, and that is my fully factored form using the x method. Now, are you ready for a hack? Here we go. Okay, I'm leaving our answer so we can see that we got to the same thing, but here's our hack. Okay, step 1, same thing. Multiply a times c. So 6 times negative 4, negative 24. Now, rewrite the rest of this equation, but leave this 6 out. Okay, x squared minus 5x minus 24. So now factor this. I'm going to throw in an x method up there. Okay, negative 24, negative 5, my 3 and my 8. My 8 wants to be the larger one. Okay, now put these guys back into our factors. Now it's time to incorporate our 6 again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of the numbers I came up with and I'm going to divide them by 6. And then I'm going to reduce if possible. Now, if either of these reduced into an integer, we would be done with that factor. When they don't reduce into an integer, when we have a fraction instead, you take the denominator of your fraction and swing it around to be the coefficient of the x. You can see that applying this method, we get the same place we got when we applied the x method and factoring by grouping. Boom! Magic. All right. Take a look at some of the other factoring videos on my factoring playlist. Consider subscribing to my channel so you know when I put out a new video. Good luck with your finals. And as always, keep on mathing.